Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show, where you'll find health and fitness inspiration, motivation, and information shared in 15-minute episodes. Tune in while getting a move on to make leading and enjoying the benefits of a healthy lifestyle almost too easy. It's the Fit 15. And now your host, Catherine Basu.
Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show. I'm your host, Catherine Basu, and today's guest is a native Houstonian. Before I share more about her, I wanted to mention that since today is Thursday, November 15th, 2018, if you're tuning in the day this episode is scheduled to go live, we are just 1 week out from Thanksgiving Day in the US, which is a popular day for road races, for turkey trots. So I highly encourage you to sign up for a turkey trot no matter where you live. But if you are going to be in Houston, Texas, like I will be on Turkey Day, I encourage you to sign up for the Houston Turkey Trot. I'm signing up because I'm going to be joining my longtime client, Meredith Rice, who's also been a guest on the show. Neither of us live in Houston, Texas anymore, but we are both traveling there to see family, so we're really excited to be meeting up for that special race. I encourage you to come out and bring one of your family or friends, or a few family and friends, out to the race. And if you do sign up under the Fit Armadillo Running Club name so we know you'll be out there and we can maybe keep an eye out for you. All right, so back to today's episode and today's guest. Today's guest is Stacy Holden, and as I mentioned, she is a native Houstonian who began running at 7 years old, only to be diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and celiac disease 3 years later. Through these health hardships, her exercise habits never faltered, and in 1988, she and her parents began training at Houston's Memorial Park. After 25 years of running at the park, Stacy started thinking about all of the people who she recognized but did not know their names, much less their stories. Her desire to learn more inspired her to track them down and write a book. Since the book's debut at the top of Amazon's hot new releases, Stacy has continued her efforts to meet new individuals in a weekly blog at peopleofmemorialpark.com. Well, welcome to the Fit 15, Stacy. I'm so excited to have you as my guest today.
Thank you.
So we have a lot we could talk about with the connection to Memorial Park and running, but maybe just to start us out, because people who listen might be beginners. That's kind of who I target my podcast to. You've been running for a long time. What is the short version of how you got started, and how have you been able to keep going for all these years?
Well, I'm 42 now and started running when I was 7 years old. So my parents did the 5Ks and some triathlons at that time when I was young. And anytime there was a race that had a kids race, like a kids mile race, my sister and I would do those shorter races. And so we enjoyed doing that. We started progressing. We did, at the time, there were kids triathlons that were held around the country and in Houston. And so we did those, and just over time, I enjoyed running. I would meet my friends on the track team in high school to run in the mornings before school. It was just fun. And so ran in college, ran at University of Texas at San Antonio for 2 years, and then graduated from the University of Houston and ran for them. And then since then, I, of course, enjoy running, but more than anything, the friends who I've met along the way. It's a social part of my day. I'm home during the day with my girls, and so it gives me the opportunity to be with adults for a few hours during the week. So not just the aerobic aspects of the sport, but also the people have made it fun and made me want to continue.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I mean, one thing, the reason why I reached out to you is that you've written that awesome book about the people of Memorial Park, which was this amazing gift that I was given when I left Houston about 2 years ago now, and I moved away. And I found it to be really fun just to go back and see, recognize some of the people that I've been running by on the loop and, hadn't met myself personally. So what gave you the idea to write the book?
Well, I was exactly like you. I started running at Memorial Park when I was 12 and loved being there. I loved just the people that you see every day. Like you said, you recognize them after seeing them, same faces over the years. And so even before I could drive, before I was 16, I would ask my parents or my grandparents to drive me to the park so I could run, even though it was about 45 minutes away from our home at the time.
Wow.
And so in 2010, I was at my in-laws' house in Austin, and they had a book on their coffee table that's very similar to mine, but it was about people around Town Lake in Austin.
Okay.
And so stories of individuals out there. And so when I saw that, I said, I need to do that for Memorial Park.
Yeah.
And so for 5 years, I just talked about when I write my book. And I don't have a writing background. I was a finance major in college. But I just continued to talk about, I'd come home and say, I saw someone else at the park who I want to include in my book. So my family, kind of started rolling their eyes every time I would talk about my book. Finally, in 2015, after 5 years, I came home one day and told Mark, my husband, that I had seen a lady who had a dog out there that she had dyed the hair blue. And so I said, I saw a blue dog at the park today. And he just immediately replied, another page for your book. And something just struck me then. I've been talking about this for 5 years. Maybe I should actually do something about it. I'm not patient for people who always say they're going to do something and then never actually do it. And then here I was, one of them. So I reached out to the girl who wrote the Austin book and just said, I feel like I'm copying your idea. Is it okay for me to do this? And she was very generous. She absolutely go for it. If you need any help, let me know. It was just so sweet. So I'm thankful for her encouragement. And so I just started making a list of the people I had seen. I had my core group of friends who I ran with, but beyond that, I would, like you said, I would see these people. I would think, he looks funny, or I wonder what the story is with the way she walks, or, just whatever. But never would cross my mind to stop them and say, why do you do that? Or what's your story? And so I just started tracking these people down. I kind of knew about when they come to the park, some in the morning, some in the afternoon.
Hi friends, it's Catherine. That little sound means we are 7.5 minutes into the episode, or halfway through 15 minutes. So if you're joining us and using the episode to get in an out and back walk and only have 15 minutes, you'll want to turn around now. All right, back to my conversation with Stacy.
And so there were days when I would sit in my car and wait for him or her to run by until, I'm writing a book. I want to include you. What's your story? And so it just evolved from there. The people who I spoke to in the very beginning, 3 people, were very, very sweet. Of course, yes, what do you need? And after that, over the time, some people said no, they did not want to be included. But for the most part, people were very, very sweet to me, gave me the time, gave me, details of their lives that they probably wouldn't share with a perfect stranger. And so it just ended up with this just pretty picture of the people of Houston, their lives, and stories that will inspire you. Some will make you laugh. Some will make you cry. So just a mix, fast, old, young, slow. We have a couple celebrities. The former president is in there. And Slim Thug, the rapper. He's out there usually in the middle of the day. The former Rockets mascot, Robert Bodwin, used to run out at the park in his Rockets mascot uniform. So just a crazy mix all over the board.
It's so funny because that's even a story when I was flipping through and saw that, I thought, oh, this is just going to be like a funny, but that's even one that will pull on your heartstrings too. So
yeah, that's exact. He had a father who almost died and was the recipient of a lung transplant. And so now he does the half marathon every year in Houston and raises money for that organization. He was so touched by the individual whose lungs were donated to his father. So he's continued to raise money for that organization, even though he had this job, as a entertainer, really.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. So I definitely am interested and enjoy sharing people's stories. I have my own book where I share some businesswomen's stories about how they got into fitness. And obviously I share people's stories in the podcast, but to reach out to those people, I did that through email or through direct message on Instagram or something like that. So I'm just curious, what's it been like trying to get the people from the park into your book to share their stories? Because I know sometimes you had to go and run up to them. It wasn't like you had someone's contact details if they were someone who was the steeple of the park, but you hadn't heard their story yet. So do you have any funny stories or insights on that whole process?
Absolutely. Like I said, I had my list of people, and so I didn't know any other way but to track them down. Since then, I've started a weekly blog where I continue to post a story and a photo. And so most of those people I contact via social media. So it's so much easier now than it was in the beginning. But a couple stories of tracking people down. One is a guy who's there every afternoon. People know him, call him the guy with the long hair. And he's very private and has an incredible story, but just is very private. And so he told me, you have a better chance of convincing me to be a liberal than you do of being in your book. And just walked away from me. And that hurt my feelings. But the guy with the shirt is the other one. It's a funny story. So Nolan Renovato, everyone recognizes the crazy shirt that he runs in. And he's been out there for almost 30 years now. It's as the shirt tears up, he gets a new one, but it's the exact same style of shirt every day for the last 30 years. And so when I ran up next to him, I said, "Hi, my name's Stacy. I'm writing a book. I would love to include you." And he said at first, "You don't want to include me." And I said, "Well, why? Do you have a sad story or a evil story?"
Right.
And he said, "Well, where did you go to college?" And so I said, "Well, I went to the University of Houston." And he said, "Oh, well, I went to the University of Houston too." And he said, "Who's your publisher?" And so I said, like I said, I knew nothing about writing a book when I started, and he was one of the first people I'd met. And so I said, "Well, I have no idea. I've just started. I may self-publish. I don't know anything about it yet. I'm just collecting the stories right now." And so he said, "Well, I am independent, and I like that you're independent too." And of course, this is all while we're running, 8-minute miles around the park, trying to keep up here. And then he said, "Well, are you a member of the Republican or Democratic National Committees?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I'm going to have to Google you and confirm that first. But I'll give you my number. And then in a couple of days, you text me. And after I've confirmed whether or not you are, then I'll let you know if I'll agree to be in it."
Oh my goodness.
A week later, I texted him and said, "Hi, Nolan. This is Stacy. I met you at the park the other day. Any chance you would give me time to sit down and talk about your story?" And so thankfully he did. My sweet friend now, he has been a good encouragement to me, and I love seeing him out there at the park.
Oh my! Yeah, I mean, now that when you go out there, do people remember you as the lady that came and asked them for an interview?
Yep. For sure, now I've put a name with a face. Before I had nicknames for most of the people, but now I know their real names, so that's nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, lots of inspiration in the book, that's for sure. You were also sharing too. I mean, you've kind of paid it forward, and now you have I guess the next generation. Your daughters have been running as well, so that's exciting to see.
Yes, I have 13 and 14-year-old daughters, and 2 years ago, November of 2018, or November 2016, I was at the park and saw a man running out there who was wearing a camelback, and he had flags stuck in the backpack, so an American flag and a Texas flag. And so I thought, I know most people out here, and I do not recognize him. So I went up to him and said, "Hey, what are you doing out here?" And so it turns out that he was running across the United States, and as he was going, was speaking at schools, just trying to encourage kids to be active, to get outside and do something. It didn't have to be running. Mm-hmm. And so he was on his way across Texas, and he said every new state he goes through, he puts that state's flag in, just to kind of make sure people see him as he's running down the road, but also to draw attention. And so I said, oh, well, I homeschool my girls. I said, I homeschool my girls. Can you talk to a homeschool group? And so he said, yeah. This was right before Thanksgiving 2016. He said, actually, this week I'm totally free because all the schools are out. And so I don't have any schools to talk to. And so I said, oh, I know a lot of homeschool kids. I'll get some together and we'll come meet you and let you talk to us.
Yeah.
So sure enough, the next day we met him out at Herman Park at Miller Outdoor Theater. And
nice.
I had this whole, I have a Suburban full of kids to come listen to him. And so he had a sweet presentation on how he got inspired. He was from the UK and saw the 2012 Olympics and just was inspired to be active because of that. And so he decided he was going to start running every day. And then received a grant to come to the United States and run through the United States. And so that was his journey. He had all kinds of stories of things that had happened along the way that he shared with the kids, and then just said, go do something, just be outside, be active. And so we came home from that, and I said, whoa, doesn't that inspire you? Don't you want to go make a plan or something? And so they kind of, maybe not. But then we told my husband that evening everything that the man, Jim Plunkett Cole is his name. And so told my husband everything Jim had said. And so my husband said, well, we could do a mile a day. And so at first the girls, they hemmed around about it. And finally they said, all right, we'll do it. And so they started November 28, 2016, with a mile a day. And they've continued almost now for 2 years. And so that's been fun to see. I owe the inspiration to Jim, but my husband's been wonderful about celebrating milestones. So in the beginning, they celebrated after 30 days, they went out and got ice cream. And then after 60 days, they went and watched a movie. And after 90 days, they got new running shoes and just did little things in the beginning to celebrate more frequently. But then they just had their 700th day celebration, and we went out to dinner as a family for that. Anyway, just, little things to encourage them. But also, there's been last January, we had the freeze where there was ice all over the road. 2017, we had Hurricane Harvey, and it was raining like crazy. And this past summer, we went to visit my aunt and uncle who live in Africa, and we had a 36-hour plane ride and layovers on the way back. And so they ended up running a mile in the Heathrow Airport in London just to get it in a 24-hour time period. Anyway, but all three of them, my husband and my girls, have all figured out how to get at least a mile a day in for the last almost 2 years now. Very proud of them, but also, just the consistency. They've been relatively injury-free, no injuries from that, being consistent with something short, and have bonded through that. My husband comes home with funny stories they talk about while they're running. So just a sweet time for them.
Had they been running before the challenge, or was that what kind of started it off?
No, my husband did a half marathon in 2009, and my oldest daughter runs for homeschool cross country and track team. So she's a runner and has run a little bit, runs 3 or 4 miles here and there. The youngest, no, not really. And so it was more than anything, the consistency, of course, was brand new. They all had run a little bit, but nothing ever consistent before that.
Well, that's really cool. So I guess, kind of one thing that I think about with your journey, talking to everyone in the park, and and I've been trying to actually be better about this. Not when I run, though. So I think this is really interesting. You've been talking to runners, especially, but just because in this world that we live in, right, where everyone's on their phones and all that, and now that I live in California, and I don't live in Houston, where it's hard to walk a lot of places in Houston because you get, or at least for me, I'd be like totally sweaty, like walking like not even a mile, but here I'm lucky and I can walk a lot, and I try to just interact with my neighbors or people I see in my neighborhood. But anything that you've learned, just forcing yourself maybe to, I don't know if you did that before or not, but for the book's sake, hearing about people's stories and just trying to be more present maybe through that whole experience.
Yeah, I guess a couple things. The first one is, it never would have crossed my mind to go up to a perfect stranger and start talking to him or her before I started this project. And so, in general, like I said, most people are open to it and happy to talk to me. And so it's funny that I didn't think I could do that unless I was writing a book.
Right.
Now that the book's come out, I'm no longer writing a book, but it's given me courage, or I guess I've had enough practice at it that I don't feel shy about doing that now, going up to somebody, or even, I see somebody at the grocery store with crazy hair, and I'll say, "What's the story with your hair?" Or whatever.
Sure.
I feel like most of the time people want to tell you. They're thankful that you're asking or that you're interested.
Right.
So that's been one thing that I've learned, that just to be brave, I guess. To me now it's easier. In the beginning, it definitely was not easy. I was very nervous about it, but it's gotten easier as I've gone. And then I think number two is some people are hesitant to share, but everybody has a story. And so I've said that many times, that that I'll ask somebody, "Hey, what's your story?" And they'll say, "Oh, I don't have a story." But then you spend 5 minutes talking to them, him or her, and you realize that you have a lot in common. It doesn't matter who it is.
Sure.
You find something you have in common with anybody. And so that's been just a sweet realization. I think especially related to the park, at Memorial Park. To me, it was special because, I just felt energized there. I felt like I always have run better there. I felt like it was a safe place for me to run as a teenager out by myself. But I kind of felt like I was the only one who was like that everybody else was just there to work out and, get their exercise done for the day.
Sure.
But then I've met so many people who have overcome, trauma in their lives, or, just things that were difficult through being out there, through number one, being with their friends, or number two, just, thinking while they're walking or running out there, spending time pondering, grieving. One man who lost his son and went out there every day after work and still goes to just, grieve the loss of his son. Anyway, it's been a healing spot for many people, not a place to work out.
Sure.
That's secondary by far. So anyway, I just see everybody has a story. Everyone is loved. I have so much in common with everyone I meet. And so it's been fun to see that, as I've become, it's become more and more easy for me to talk to a perfect stranger, that I could usually end up spending half an hour talking to anybody.
Sure.
If they'll let me. Some people don't want to talk, but most people do.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, one thing that is good, because I'll get this out before Christmas for the listeners, but people that are looking for gifts. I mean, I shared that it was definitely a really unique and awesome gift for me as someone who would, loved being in Memorial Park. It's one of my favorite places in Houston for sure. If not, I mean, now that I'm saying that, like, it might be the favorite place of mine in Houston. But you're offering a nice promo code for the listeners, so that's really sweet.
Yes, I'm happy to give listeners a 20% discount. And if you use the code FITARMADILLO when you check out, then the 20% discount will be applied. Orders have to be placed at peopleofmemorialpark.com, and then they'll get an autographed copy of the book or books that they order. They make great gifts, good for your coffee table to read a story a day or so if you don't want to read it all at one time.
Yeah.
And some stories will make you laugh. Some stories will make you cry, like I said, that inspire you. You can see that there's so many people who shouldn't be out there running. We're, told they never should be able to run. And just people's determination through adversity is also inspiring too.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, thanks so much for being a part of the show. And I know we can also, even after we get the book, you still have, like you mentioned, you have the weekly blog post, and you share on social media as well. You keep up the account People of Memorial Park. So that'll be exciting for people to check out too.
Correct. Yes, I do Facebook and Instagram posts, and then also on the website, People of Memorial Park. So you search any of those three and you can see news stories that are not in the book, but all same beautiful people and just a great representation of what the city of Houston is.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Stacy, for the book and for being on the show.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. I had a wonderful time.
Thanks for listening to the Fit 15. For show notes and more, visit fitarmadillo.com/podcast. See you next time.
Hi, friends. It's Catherine. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Fit 15. I wanted to stop by to encourage you to subscribe to the show so you don't miss tomorrow's episode of the Fit 15, which will be a continuation of my conversation with Stacy, where we will talk about people who have thought they were not runners or felt really overwhelmed with getting started with running or exercising in general and have used Memorial Park to start them on their journeys. So if you want to get some extra inspiration, I hope you will enjoy tomorrow's episode. If you are local to Houston, there are a few episodes of the Fit 15 that might be of interest to you. For example, I had Shelly Arnold, the president and CEO of Memorial Parks Conservancy, on the show for 2 episodes, and a few other awesome Houstonians. So definitely check out the show notes for that. I hope you will enjoy those episodes, to chat with you tomorrow, and to see you at the Houston Turkey Trot next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.